This conference will now be recorded.
Yep. All right, so Barbara, if you can hear us online, recap. Thanks to everybody who came out for the litter sweep, and thank you to our staff, and they did a great job, and all the volunteers who came out for it. And then recognize 103 Sutton Drive for they're the winner of the spring yard of the season contest. We had celebrity guest judge Todd Larson, who really got into it and had a good time out there and did a good job judging all the houses. So I want to thank the Cape Carteret Garden Club, as well as Lowe's Home Improvement, who provides the gift cards to the winner of the Yard of the Season. So definitely stay tuned for the Summer Yard of the Season contest. And it's always great to be able to recognize somebody who takes pride in their yard in Cape Carteret. So also want to give an update. We've got the materials that were donated by Lowe's Home Improvement. Want to thank them, as well as Scott and Oldcastle. They donated the blocks and the wood at a discount, as well as the raised bed soil for that park up there off of Bahia Lane. So we've got 6 raised beds so far for the community garden project. So it's exciting to see that get off the ground. We mentioned it at the planning board meeting about we're interested in seeing if we could get some volunteers together to help out with the garden. We already have a water tap out there, so Ryan's working on getting that in place, and want to thank the Public Works Department for their hard work on this project, and it's something we're excited to see getting off the ground. And Lowe's also donated pollinator-friendly seeds as well. So we're going to be putting some pollinator-friendly plantings up here, as well as all the parks in town as part of our Bee City initiative. So also want to, Public Works Department's got their own garden over there. There's a little bit different. They're using some tires. So really good to see them getting in the garden in spirit. And then we also have our garden out here out back. So this is another community garden for Old Cape Carteret. So this is a melon garden back here. So hopefully there will be some melons in place for the watermelon festival. If nothing else, the sunflowers have come in really well. Those were seeds we recycled from last year. So repurposed those and took those off the heads and we're able to dry them out and reuse them. So that's pretty much all I've got for my update today. I'll see if Ryan or Chief has anything.
We're getting ready to make some money this week with the Cape Carteret Trail segment. We met with the contractor last week. The last knowledge is getting in there, starting to grade and pave, and harbor starting on all over there. Now it's active mowing season, getting our right of ways moved out and keeping an eye on all the stormwater infrastructure for our dishes, piping. They're not getting pushed to the Memorial Day. We're going to get our military banners up. Getting our flags around town, so
I just want to say, I mentioned to you earlier, but just officially, that Miss Jackson from over on Starlight was very impressed with your crew. She was very happy with the work you've been doing over there, cleaning all that out. Great job.
This again, we just want to keep talking about having a good lunch program, and we had a pretty good turnout the third week of last month, complete with a cookout. So we want everyone to come out and participate. And I think it's about neighbors getting to know neighbors. And, neighbors get to know you better, and you get to know them better. So just want to keep pushing hard for that. And our next meeting will be July, the third Thursday in July. And then, of course, our main members and admin will be having a meeting early this month, actually next Wednesday. So we'll keep you updated. If you want our email list, just let me know. Also, there's been brochures that have been produced. We can get those out to you. Just get in touch with me. And that's basically what I have.
Thanks, Chief. And if that's it for staff, we'll move on to planning board update from Mrs. Hall.
Good evening, everybody. I know everybody's tired and my brief is not brief, so I gave each of you a written copy of what I have. The planning board met for their regularly scheduled meeting this past Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. They conducted their annual election for a new chair, and the current chair was reelected. The planning board discussed adding a requirement for an engineered stormwater plan for all new development, including single-family residential dwellings. The town manager coordinated with the town engineering consultant, John Freshwater, and developed the minimum standard for retention at 2 inches in 24 hours, utilizing swales. It's important to note that this exceeds the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality minimum standard of 1.5 inches. The planning board would like to have an idea of the cost burden on the developer if we require this engineered stormwater plan. I spoke with 2 civil engineering firms. I spoke to Jason Houston at Tidewater Associates in Jacksonville and Jason Cullifer at the Cullifer Group in Morehead City. Both provided ballpark estimates significantly higher than Mr. Freshwater's, as well as other valuable information related to the minimum standards and stormwater retention solutions. The Culliver Group also advised on challenges related to obtaining the required topographical surveys due to a lack of local surveyors, and that this requirement may potentially cause delay in projects. Both firms were consistent in their recommendation for a minimum standard of 1 inch. Both felt the standard provided by the town manager was needlessly burdensome, and there was a limited return on the investment of cost and effort to require anything greater than 1 inch. So because of that inconsistency, I've requested further discussion with the town manager to deconflict the minimum standard recommendations. We had a discussion on townhouse ordinance. We weren't clear on kind of where this came from, but there's a little clearer picture now. The town manager added this to the agenda and provided the Cedar Point multifamily dwelling ordinance as a starting point for us to discuss. We had a broad discussion, but it revealed a need to define the terms associated with dwelling categories before any further discussion can produce clarifying text changes. This discussion is needed to update the UDO so that it aligns with the recently adopted CAMA land use plan. In terms like duplex and townhouse, condominium and apartment, multifamily and single family, attached, detached, and semi-attached homes, zero and near zero lot lines. And also essential to this issue is addressing density criteria appropriately and in consideration for town feel, as well as wastewater and stormwater challenges. At the time of the discussion, the planning board was unaware that there is in fact a townhouse project in the early stages of development. Our current ordinances are inadequate to advise this developer and others like him. To avoid unnecessary delays or confusion, it is vital that the planning board update the existing ordinances to clarify the parameters of the zoning category, update those parameters, or develop another zoning category to support the development of single-family attached homes such as townhouses, patio homes, and other zero and near zero lot line structures. And I've requested a discussion with the town manager regarding this effort. Time sensitive, I'm asking the Board of Commissioners to consider a text change to the non-conforming use approval process. The UDO states that the UDO administrator provides non-conformity determinations, including expansion. However, the UDO also states that non-conforming usage shall not be enlarged or extended except in conformity with the UDO. Therefore, since the expansion of non-conforming uses is prohibited in accordance with the UDO, then the UDO administrator should not have this authority. Developers should seek to redress their non-conformity challenges through the authority of the Board of Commissioners or the Board of Adjustments. I recommend that the Board of Commissioners make this change immediately by striking it entirely in the UDO or by tasking the Planning Board to recommend the text change language. The Board of Commissioners should consider making this change prior to the new UDO administrator assuming their duties. A lot of changes ahead for us with a new town manager. I want to make a note as we talk about these things that non-conforming use should not be confused with special use permits. Special use permits is new language for everybody and a new concept. So I'm also requesting that the Board of Commissioners provide clarification on the special use permit process. The new UDO requires that most developers actually apply for a special use permit. In the case of the townhouse project, this is a significant departure from the type of development we have historically seen in Cape Carteret. Therefore, it is recommended that the Board of Commissioners clarify the special use permit application and approval process. The current process has hamstrung the Planning Board. The Board of Commissioners should demand that the level of detail and scrutiny given to the special use permit review process is sufficient that the Board of Commissioners can confidently accept the Planning Board's statement of consistency. Specifically, that the special use permit process requires that the Planning Board receive all application materials, including plans for review. The Planning Board review should be conducted after the UDO administrator's initial meeting with the developer and before making their written recommendation to the Board of Commissioners regarding consistency with the comprehensive plan. The period of planning board review should be at least 10 days. And finally, there's much work to be done to implement the recently adopted CAMA land use plan. I recommend an annual joint meeting with the Planning Board and the Board of Commissioners to set the Planning Board tasks and budget for the year. And this should be reflected in the UDO. Anybody have any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Thank you much. You can leave it there. We have public comment coming up. Thank you, Jeff. Which brings us to the public comments. Everybody gets 3 minutes to speak their mind if you signed up. We had 3 people that signed up. We'll go in order. First up is Marilyn Aulick. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yes. I'm Marilyn Aulick, and I've been down here since 1970. And I have yet to see too much done for the children here, except to get in trouble. And we got enough drugs around here now anyhow. But I think they need a YMCA would be nice, or a swimming pool. Silver Creek's got a swimming pool. They charge $20 a day for the kids. That's outrageous to me. They won't even help the kids. And of course, Big Daddy's is expensive for a lot of families too, to bring their kids to. So we need the city to step in and do something besides making sidewalks around. They got a big sidewalk up 58. I have yet to see somebody walk down there, and I go up and down there every day. So I wish most of you would listen to me and do something for the children. I told my grandson, I said, I am going down and speak to this meeting tonight before I pass away. I'm 95, and I'm trying to do something for the children on Cape Cod. So I hope you all listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Excuse me, I'm going home.
I don't blame you. You have a great evening. All right, next up is Tanya Springfield. She's not going. Okay. That's still good. Still good. All right, so Cliff Trout.
I got a question for all of you. I want to know if the zoning has been changed down there for any businesses or anything like that. Where, I consider a business, if you set something up and you make money at it, that's considered a business to me. And I don't know whether the lawyer said it's a business or not. To me, that's a business. And if you've got any streets in Cape Carteret, down at the end by the water, that are considered zoned for businesses. Does anybody know?
What are you referring to, perhaps? Would
Well, do you have boat docks or something and you're renting them? That's considered a business to me. Now, for years, I've been wanting to do a business at my house, but I've been rejected by everybody. I was a commercial fisherman for a lot of years. I couldn't even put my boat in down there because you didn't allow commercial boats. I was an antique dealer and an auctioneer. I used my building, but I had to own everything that I put in my building. Now, I couldn't charge anybody anything from that building. Now, this is for 30 some years. Now, I want to know, is any of the streets down on the ends of these streets set up for business? Is it being allowed?
Are you referring to renting boat slips?
Renting boat slips.
Zach, I think you could answer that question as far as our, the difference in the waterfront type of business.
Yeah, the waterways ordinance and the UDO does provide some standards for that type of activity, that it does allow that activity to take place in residential areas. So we can pull up that section if we need to go through it, but it does provide for the renting of slips. So.
Well, what is considered a residential area? Pretty much everything down there is residential,
I can pull up the zoning map if we need to as well, but.
isn't it? I mean, you tell me, I live right there and I'm looking at the water all the time. And all of us are residential right there. But then you have what was considered the wetlands, which has been filled in now. And I'm still trying to figure out if it's still wetlands or not. It couldn't be built on for years. But I was told by one of the people down there, if you have enough money, you can do whatever you want to do.
Marinas are approved for residents.
It's residential.
It's in a residential neighborhood. It's in our
But is there a business where you have 10 or 15 or 20 boats or something like that? I consider that a business, not just. And I mean, I've lived here a lot of years and I've been around here since 1967. And the reason why we moved here is we came here back from, I was working at Fort Indian Town Gap, the military. And we moved back down here. It's because I liked it here, because I knew what it was going to be. And now it's changing. And I mean, it's not changing for the good. I do kayaking down there. You guys on the last commission voted that, you couldn't slow the boats down there. You can get run over down there. I've asked about the drainage. You go big about drainage. You've got on your books that you can't build the lot up higher, so you drain water down on other people's property, but you let them do it. I haven't quite figured any of this out. I mean, you've got a regulation that says you can't do that. So what is a business? Can you, any of you guys tell me what a business is? And if it's making money, I want to be down at my house. I want to make money. Because I can still repair furniture and still do things in my garage. And I want to sell them. So if one person's making money, then everybody should be making money. That's the way I look at it. And I don't know whether a lawyer who works for the people of the town will tell you or not what a business is. And I mean, the people pay you, all of us, every town, So we really should know what a business is. And I don't know whether any of you guys are going to say it, because there hasn't been one commission in the last 30 years that have said it. And I've asked all of them. So, it's up to you guys to figure it out, I guess. But pretty soon somebody's going to take you to court to find out what's going on. Because, I feel, pretty sure that's going to happen. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, sir. All right, next up is presentation of stormwater engineering findings on Sutton Drive. Mr. Jonathan McDaniel.
Good evening, board, commissioners, mayor. I'm Jonathan McDaniel, Tidewater Associates in Cedar Point, 604 Cedar Point Boulevard. And yeah, I guess first apologizes. We had a meeting last week, and it's more going to be a discussion, kind of opening discussion on some drainage stuff. So apologize for not having a formal thing for you guys. Kind of first off, we were hired by Star Hill Golf Club to do a evaluation of the drainage area, the Sutton Drive and the cul-de-sac there in the Star Hill area across the fairway. So being conscious of their budget, that's why we've got the evaluation work done, and now we're kind of opening discussion on kind of where to go next. So, and this was really in response to, I guess, a couple hurricanes, and I think the latest was a major event, June 16th, 2020. It rained 7 inches in one day, which is just incredible. And I think 5.5 inches like in an hour. So it's extreme flooding, and that area caught the brunt of it. So yeah, we were given like a report of kind of what happened, and a lot of pictures that showed flooding in people's yards and some pretty close to their homes. And so we spent a good amount of time just evaluating where that actual flood area occurred, and have done a whole bunch of survey work of that area, and just kind of mapped out that flooding event. And I think, well, if I had a better presentation module, but this is just kind of a summary. And I can kind of hold and walk you through it. Kind of the top is the Pettiford Creek area. Then there's Star Hill Drive, and then further south is the Fairway, and then the Sutton Drive area. So there's a lot of survey data there, just not to overwhelm you. But that area highlighted in blue is roughly elevation contour 19, which is from photos and from the survey data is where we could delineate where that floodwater got to. And so, yeah, I mean, long story short, after evaluating the drainage area that outlets to this area is roughly 40 acres, which is pretty substantial given that the outfall to Pettiford Creek is a 15-inch pipe. Normal standards, that needs to be around a 30 or a 36-inch. But kind of good thing with the town is the soils in this area are incredible, so they can handle a lot of infiltration from most storms, most bad storms. But you get 7 inches in one day, and this is the result. And you know, hurricanes of that nature would do similar. So, and we met on this last week, just kind of where we are. We met with Star Hill golf people and Zach with the town, and just kind of spitballing ideas of where to go from here. And basically, we have come up with a Band-Aid fix to kind of help solve this type of event from occurring. Again, it's, I mean, a Band-Aid fix. Will it work for most bad storms? Maybe, but it's significantly cheaper than trying to, totally redo the drainage in this area. But it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. And there's also the issue with drainage easements. So some of the drainage infrastructure is located in easements, some is not at all. There's definitely a good amount that cuts across the fairway that's not in any type of easement. But I know the Star Hill Golf Course is willing to help participate. I mean, not totally pay for everything, but want to be helpful, grant easements. And they've actually, yeah, I mean, they've hired us to get to this point just on their own dime. But kind of the Band-Aid fix would be just removing one of the drainage tops and kind of grading down part of the fairway area to kind of act as a emergency overflow. But just that's kind of where we're at today, and open to any questions. And again, sorry I don't have anything super formal for you guys, but just being conscious of client's budget.
So you're talking about doing a swell, taking the pipe out and doing a swell over that box and just cutting the box out?
Not
or
necessarily.
just leaving the pipe in place?
If you can kind of see, there's before you go to the northern end of the fairway, before you get to the golf cart path, there's like I just wrote an existing berm. There's just an area that could be cut down about 1.5 feet, 2 feet to provide overflow to let the water get out to the next drainage box. But that's something that would help for sure.
Okay.
But just, yeah, I mean,
So I guess the next step will be to get a cost estimate for that.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. And a budget. But yeah, again, it's just like a initial Band-Aid fix to kind of help prevent some of this from happening again. But I mean, in a nutshell, that area is way undersized. But just, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to get to an actual fix there.
Are we at a point where we know what size event this Band-Aid will
No,
directly take care of?
no, that's really, really tough to do because the soils are so good that infiltration is taking care of a lot of those bad events. But it's the hurricane type events that get to this level.
You're pretty much saying that you're just going to alleviate the berm, which creates the bowl, so to speak.
Remove
for the
that.
retention to get that level down, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be at the flood.
Yeah.
Line. Okay. Yeah.
And there's kind of a time kind of window right now with the golf course where they're getting ready to redo it.
Mhm.
So there could be some coordination to kind of get this done before the next hurricane season.
So let's say that I imagine that blue marker is where the flood was.
But yeah,
So let's just say that's the full pool.
Yep.
Your sort of swale that I guess it's kind of like a weir in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be the elevation decrease? So what's the comparison of the elevation of full pool to
right.
what it would drain?
About 2 feet lower.
So residents there would still see
Steep
flood, but it would be 2 feet less than it was in that event, right?
Correct. Yeah. So as far as getting in the homes,
Right.
that helps take care of some of that risk. But again, it could back up to that level, but still just drain down quicker
Right.
versus taking a couple days.
Yeah.
So it's still something to consider. You know,
Oh,
it can
yeah.
still pond to that level or
2
more.
feet's a lot though.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, open any questions and yeah, be around. So.
What is the, how would you categorize that event? 100 year, 500 year?
500. Yeah. It's the worst like anyone's ever seen. Yeah. I mean, Florence, it was almost 3 feet of rain in 2 to 3 days.
Right.
And that was 7 inches in one day. It's pretty incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is there a limit to the infiltration? Like would we see, you know, like faster storms that infiltrates wouldn't be as, like if that's 7 inches, you said 7 inches
Yeah, in one day.
in one day, if that if all that rain had occurred in, let's say, an hour, would that
It'd be worse. Yeah.
would
And
we
there's
see that?
Yeah, and there's another thing too. If you get like back-to-back storms, so you get like maybe 5 inches of rain over 2 or 3 weeks, you know, it takes a long time for that water to move through infiltration soils. I mean, it's going to follow the slope down to Pettiford Creek. It just takes a long time. So if you get another bad hurricane rain after the groundwater is full,
Right.
you're going to get a lot more runoff than you normally would if the groundwater is down. So if that makes sense.
Got one more for you.
Yes, sir.
What, so I get that 7 inches in 24 hours is basically unheard of. So in terms of risk, cost to reward ratio, I mean, what does this, in your opinion, is doing something like this worth it in the grand economical scheme of things? Like, we're spending a bunch of money to do something that might happen in 1,000 years, or we spending money that's going to be well spent?
Yeah, it needs to be done.
Okay.
Just, yeah, storms are getting more frequent that are tremendous like that. And yeah, and definitely the initial fix is well worth doing it. And maybe there's a combination of you just do the outlet to Pettiford Creek and redo that, and that would help a lot. And maybe you phase it out instead of doing everything at once.
What, you said there was a timeline associated with it, the golf course had some stuff going on. What, do you know what that timeline is?
Not exactly. Miss Paxson might be able to, but I don't want to put her on the spot.
6 weeks.
6 weeks?
6 weeks, we were doing the greens on that 9. And from the time we fill them off and do new greens, it'll take them 6 weeks. So we have a window, 6 weeks, to do whatever we're gonna do across the fairway, because we're not gonna be using that hole anyway.
I got it.
We'll be starting in a week or so. So the time could be now to do the golf course fairway. Golf course is willing to cooperate with the town. We're good corporate citizens. We give the town an easement across the fairway, which you don't have now. We'll do as much of this Band-Aid as we can in-house, but if you want to plan to help the citizens occupy about 40 to 50 acres, really not our job to drain your neighborhoods and your streets. We'll cooperate.
Well, I guess we just need a cost estimate to know what we're looking at, and then we can go from there. So if we can get that in the next, little bit, then see what we can do.
Yep, absolutely.
You know that off the top of your head, or
Oh, when I could get an estimate?
cost estimate?
I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Well, if we could get that sort of quickly.
Yep.
Because like you say, we want to, if that's a good time, if we can do something partner, if the board is agreement to doing anything like that, which I hope they would be. Here again, we just need to know, and if we can do it and it's a lesser burden on you guys while you're shut down, that just makes sense to me to try to do it. And it does seem simple, for a swell, they could probably knock that out in a day. I think the only thing would be if there was a conflict of utilities, like with the irrigation or anything like that, that would have to be lowered. That might be in the way of the excavation.
Well, I like Jonathan and Zach, correct me if I misunderstood, but at the joint meeting between town and Star Hill, I gathered the solution across the fairway was a new bigger pipe, not just a swale.
Well, what he's saying is knocking down the berm first.
Yes, yes, that's just the thing.
Yeah.
If you want to do the fix, it's gonna take a.
So what was the fix? We talked about the little weird, the fix is a pipe across
Yes, sir.
full, like basically
Yeah,
what amounts to a 36-inch pipe across.
That's
the-
part of it. And I can come up with some options for like different phases of that work, just to see what makes
Yeah,
sense.
we need some numbers.
Yep. Yep.
To do either one or both, Exactly. So as soon as we get figures on both, we can go from there.
I think the,
Yep.
Absolutely. So
I think the consensus was when we left the meeting, was that Star Hill is going to work on the swale portion. And then Ryan, John Freshwater and I met and looked at, right now there's 2 drop boxes, but they're just encased in a concrete lid, so it doesn't allow water to go in. So I think Ryan was going to start working on putting in switching that out so the water could get into the system. And we were willing to do that in conjunction of what's going on with the swale. So that way all those things are happening simultaneously. I know the golf course had mentioned about looking into jetting that pipe as well. And then all that obviously being the Band-Aid solution. And then we talked about the long-term solution being even potentially looking at upsizing that pipe from the fairway all the way out to Hedford Creek. So
yeah,
we mentioned about applying for some grant funding for that specific project. So I think if we've got, specific cost estimates and scenarios outside of the Band-Aid thing, I think that's what we can kind of look at for a future meeting and go for a grant for that. But we do have a good kind of plan of action, and I'm optimistic. It's good that Star Hill is working with us and our public works department's ready to go, and that'll give us at least a Band-Aid going into hurricane season. Then we can look at this longer term effort to make some additional improvements to upsize pipes or whatever we need to do. So
yeah, there you go. So we just need numbers, man.
Yep.
And thank you. Great.
Yes, sir. Yep. Thank you.
Any more questions, gentlemen? All righty. Well, we look forward to hearing from you again.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't get a chance to mention in the budget workshop, but while we got Jonathan here,
Uh-huh.
it might be, something we had spoke about earlier was about the potential of some wastewater treatment solutions that the towns might partner together on.
Right.
So if Jonathan's willing to speak on it a little bit, I think it's something we talked about for a long time. Well, we've got somebody here that can speak on it a little bit just informally. It would be a good opportunity knowing that one of our biggest challenges for development is wastewater treatment.
Okay, so Jonathan McDaniels now has the floor.
Yes, sir. Jonathan McDaniel, Tidewater Associates. Yeah, just had kind of an informal conversation with Zach today. We're working on a couple commercial projects over in Cedar Point, and just this has been going on for maybe 6 months, 9 months, somewhere in there. So we have diligenced greatly how to get public sewer for those couple projects. We've talked about pumping down or pumping up to not Star Hill, but Silver Creek, Eddie McNeil's property. He's got a treatment plant permitted. And we've talked about pumping down to Canonsgate, because Aqua, the utility company, they have some capacity, and they own both of the treatment plants for Bogue Watch.
Do you know what the capacity is for that plant?
Ballpark, maybe 150,000 gallons, 200,000 gallons, somewhere in there.
Is that a day?
Correct. Yeah, because basically both treatment plants are designed for all those homes and full build out of the subdivisions. Actual flows somewhere around maybe 2/3 is what typically, or less, is what seems to happen. So there's going to be significant capacity for those treatment plants. Actually, only the Canonsgate plant is running. The Bogue Watch plant pumps to Canonsgate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we kind of diligenced it pretty heavy. It's little over 5 miles from kind of where we need to go to tie in. And just kind of a budget was like 3.5 million, somewhere in there. And that was just the construction to get it there.
So that would be
Again,
like a
that's
shared force main, right?
correct. Well, once it'd be built, this was when we were doing work for it, it'd be built by the developer, then dedicated to Aqua upon completion, and they would own and operate it and, be a public utility. But there's another thing as far as, once you connect the sewer, there's the connection fee, the impact fee, which is, I think it's $15 a gallon. So, I mean, that adds another $1.5 million just instantly, or more, just depending on how much flow to buy from Aqua. So, I mean, moving target now with material prices going up every day. So it's a probably $5.5, $6 million endeavor with that much flow. But just, in working with town of Cedar Point, I know they've expressed interest to help facilitate that should it happen. And there's a couple other developers interested. And then also town of BOC just had a discussion with one of them, one of their commissioners, and there's some interest there as well. So just figure to get the discussion out on the table. There may be a good collaboration to get some sewer down this way, which would facilitate a lot of development and help in a lot of ways.
So I know when you use the word regionalize with some of this infrastructure money that's getting ready to pour out of Fed, we could possibly get some of that.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of
with the grant.
got to discussion today, because we were at a seminar Thursday and Friday, and there's a lot of grant money available.
Yeah, I was there. I thought you looked familiar.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. NC Byway Spring Conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just,
that's the first thing I said, that the first 3 presentations, the numbers were just astronomical.
yeah. Yeah.
So I don't see why we can't get it. So
Yeah. I think it made a major benefit to this end of the county for sure. So, yeah, just getting the discussion out on the table. And
well, I'd like to get with you later.
Sure.
And talk some more about that.
Yeah.
But that's good news.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Next up is the selection of a tenant for 204 WB McLean unit, number A.
So we've been working to secure a tenant for the 204 WB McLean Drive Unit A. The Public Works Department has completed repair work to the roof of the facility, and the prior tenant has vacated the space. The town has spoken with 3 prospective tenants about their interest in the space. At the present time, it appears that the Aloha Kids Drop-In Daycare is the only tenant that would be able to immediately move forward with renting the space. Staff recommends entering into a 1-year lease agreement with Aloha Kids for the town rental space at 204 WB McLean Drive, Unit A, at a monthly rate of $2,440. And the Board of Commissioners are asked to authorize the town manager in consultation with the town attorney to enter into a 1-year lease agreement with Aloha Kids.
Square footage on that space.
2,000 square feet.
Zach, at that time, did we not budget a significant amount of money to replace that entire roof? And it was actually on the agenda a couple of months ago, I think, there's some questions about now we don't do the roof.
So we're going to evaluate how those repairs did. They did a good job getting up there and patching it up. I feel confident, and Public Works will keep an eye on it. If it gets to the point that it needs to be replaced in the future, we can definitely revisit that issue. But hopefully that patching will work. But yeah, when we got into that, we started getting into what kind of engineering would be required to do that. So it became a little bit more of a complex project than we were anticipating. So.
Well, if we lease this building to them and then we find out we really need a roof, do they have to move out while the roof's being replaced?
I wouldn't think so. I think they can still replace it with them in there, so we can kind of keep an eye on this. There's 2 spots where we knew of that had presented issues in the past, and they got up there and patched those 2 locations. And I think did a pretty thorough job. So we'll keep an eye on those two spots each time we get a rainfall event. And, we haven't had too many of those lately, but if, just keeping an eye on those ceiling tiles and see if that presents any issues. So.
My other issue is parking spaces are limited up there, and with the police department being the neighbor, have they been told they got so many parking places and that's it? They can't encroach on the police department's parking area?
We can do a parking diagram that will include in the lease agreement, and basically from that dividing line from the police department over would be for this facility, and then the space behind, and then just we kind of informally said if they're going to obviously operate in the evening time, so if this lot's open, it's first come first serve if it's available, something that's available to them. So.
Did we ask her that last time? She said she was fine with that. I remember that coming up.
Yeah, I think so.
Exact conversation. She was okay with it.
This is going to be an indoor facility only, correct? You're not going to be bringing, or they're going to be bringing the kids outside or outside supervision. So I'm wondering, so where are they going to do that?
Yeah, I think it's primarily indoors, but they did mention about with us having a park out back, if they decide to use that, it's available to anybody who wants to use it, kind of thing. So, I don't see her on here, I don't think, unless it's that waiting for name, that third one over. Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to enter into a lease agreement with
I'll second that.
Second. All in favor? All opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So you're in favor? No, just want to make sure. Right. Yeah. You good? Okay. So all in favor.
All right.
For the record. Next up is selection of the contractor for the 2022 spring paving project.
All right, so the town recently solicited proposals for the spring 2022 paving project. We've got those proposals summarized there on the screen. We had Onslow Grading and Paving, Barnhill Paving, Thomas Simpson, and Able Asphalt. The lowest bidder was Onslow Grading and Paving at $149,468.25. The roads that were included in the project were Quailwood Court, Feather Lane, Loma Linda Drive, Yopon Drive, Star Hill Drive, Fox Drive, and Middle Court. And it'll be portions of each of these roadways as shown on the map there in the memo. We'll need to do a budget amendment. We currently have $72,246 remaining in the FY 21-22 budget for paving projects. And we have $39,194 in the CIP for paving projects, which brings us to $111,440. And then staff recommends utilizing $38,028.25 from the American Rescue Plan funds for the disbursement to cover the remaining portion of the cost. And so the requested action is for the Board of Commissioners to consider approving Budget Amendment 2021.2022.8 and to consider selecting Onslow Grading and Paving as the spring 2022 paving contractor, and to authorize the town manager in consultation with the town attorney to enter into a contract with Onslow Grading and Paving.
Here, I got one comment I want to make.
Sure, go right ahead, Steve.
I'd just like to point out the fact that out of our three major neighborhoods, Star Hill is getting 2,582 feet of paving. Old Cape Carteret, 1,754 feet. Bayshore Park, 0. And $38,000 coming out of the ARP fund. I think we could have found an area which I had identified months ago with Mr. Steffi in Bayshore that I felt like needed to be paved. Very, very short section, Edgewater.
grass is growing up through the pavement. Just wanted to point that out.
And Public Works Department evaluates all the pavement condition throughout the town and prioritizes which projects. So that's something we could definitely make a note of that for the fall paving project and see if we can include that in that project as well.
All right, well, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to the town manager and attorney to enter a contract with, Oslo paving for the, spring paving.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. Next up is consideration of a SRT BWC grant for body worn cameras.
All right, so the Cape Carteret Police Department was recently notified that the department has been approved for a SRT BWC grant to fund body worn cameras. The grant requires a 50% local match. Body worn cameras are an important tool for law enforcement agencies as they increase transparency, accountability, and help to resolve claims of misconduct. Further, body worn cameras can provide critical evidence for legal proceedings and aid in officer training efforts. The total anticipated cost for body worn cameras will be roughly $16,000, which means that the cost to the town will be around $8,000. The town is in the process of obtaining updated quotes as prices have increased since the original quotes were obtained due to inflation. We anticipate that the cost will remain below the $16,000. And the requested action from the Board of Commissioners is to consider accepting the body worn camera grant and to consider approving budget amendment 2021.2022.9. And I know Chief's here to answer any questions if there are any, and I'll take a stab at it as well if needed.
Would you like to make any comments, Chief?
No, there's questions.
Okay.
Kind of self-explanatory. Most departments are going with body worn cameras also for accountability and other legal reasons.
Do want to recognize Mike Bishop for his hard work on getting this grant. So that was.
That's right. And have Officer Bishop, he's had with the prior grant. We're still waiting on our in-car cameras. They've been delayed twice now. They're still in production. So we're still facing that issue. I don't know if we would have the same one with the body worn cameras. Hopefully not.
Okay.
Not just $8,000 matching, 50/50, right?
Yes, 50/50.
Are you, we'll take it out of reserves or ALV funds?
Yeah, that was coming out of undesignated fund balance, right? Because these are federal funds. We wouldn't want to use ARP to match federal. These would just be out of the undesignated fund balance.
What are they coming out of? What's 05? Oh, okay.
What are we expecting this increase in price to be? Because Lord knows, I know a lot of things have gone up 30% in the last month, and 30% changes this from an $8,000 match to a $10,000 some odd dollar match. I'm just curious how much we think this increase.
I wouldn't expect a large increase. Last year's quote was just under $6,200. I wouldn't think it would be more than possibly another $500 to $700 increase. It shouldn't be much.
How many cameras are, is it?
There'll be 8 cameras total.
How about the part-times? They swap out? or-
Part-time will have 1 camera. For
SRO?
part-timers, that would be designated for the part-time that they would pick up and utilize during their tour duty. And then there would be 7 cameras for all of us, for all full-time employees.
SRO included. The SRO,
Oh, I hadn't thought about him, but you're right. So he would actually use one. Chief probably being in the position would not be wearing a camera all the time. Or the 8th camera could also be utilized for the chief if he's out on the road working.
let me ask a question, and I'm referring back to this information we got from Sandy back previous to the budget workshop. If I'm reading this correct, for this past year with the police, for small tools and equipment, looks like we spent $2,411, but if I'm reading this right, we budgeted $27,000. What? Showing 24,000 unused. What was that? What was budgeted for that was not, money was not spent on?
Is that the,
Am I reading this correct? If I'm reading this correct, there's 24,000 unspent dollars right there.
that might be the in-car cameras because they haven't shown up, so we probably haven't paid for them yet.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was in the $20,000 range. So that's, yeah, that was the in-car cameras.
I was about to say, does that still leave some money in there to move for this particular line item or this particular purchase?
Looks like to me like there might be.
I'd certainly like to use money that's been budgeted that was not going to get used.
I will point out something that some of these line items, the fuel costs, is detrimental to our operation. So some of those items, line items are going to need to be contributed toward the fuel costs. I promise you it's well over 100% already. And we are not through this fiscal year yet. So I stay on my guys to shut down their engines as much as possible. Sometimes when it's super hot outside, you can't do that. Your equipment gets hot. You're hot and cold, hot and cold. But I preach to them all the time about utilization of or being conservative with their fuel consumption. But that is their office, and they are out moving around and they are active. So,
Well, according to the actual expenditures, you're already well over your fuel.
yes, sir. So we're actually
26%, which is out of everybody's hands. I mean,
Right.
it is what it is.
some of the other line items that I would recommend that you probably utilize those to help cover that expenditure.
I don't know if we can move.
So Sandy, as the finance officer, can make transfers within the lines of the
Okay.
department to offset if there's an overage. So that's where these other areas will help to offset those fuel overages. Because if we're at 126%, you know, we're probably going to be even. They're not going to stop dropping them from now until
That's right.
June
Still
30th.
got a
So.
few months. Probably a budget amendment or something to that nature.
Well, ideally, hopefully there will be some offset, and
Yeah.
hopefully we won't have to do that. But you know, it's
If the
going to be
money's
close.
left over within that particular budget, we don't have to amend anything. It's if we-
What he was saying back in February, we did Session Amendment 6. And that's where we put the $24,381 in the police grant for the
In-car cameras.
yeah. And that's still sitting there because we didn't get, last one we did it was in February. We did a budget amendment for that amount.
But if we pull from the general fund now, and then there's some left over on that purchase, it would just go back to the general fund. So using it now or using it later doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
That's the thing, even if we pull it from there, it's still, whatever you pull from, you have to leave it because if those things did come in and we had to pay that before the end of June, it's there. And then chances are the other ones aren't gonna come in before then either, but once you gentlemen do that budget amendment, I have to do it and it has to show, because when the auditor comes in, even if we haven't been able to extend it, then that goes right back into our balance.
Gotcha.
Right.
We know emotion.
Chief, how many car cameras will we be receiving? We're supposed to be receiving.
We'll be receiving 7. Is that correct? 7. Yes, sir.
And you say that the car cameras are somewhere out there?
Yeah, I checked, I checked 2 weeks ago and they had been delayed another 4 to 6 weeks. Still out there.
This was dated January 22.
Mhm.
That was a match grant too as well, correct? What was that cost?
That was a reimbursement grant.
Yeah. And it was started in September.
I don't have that total cost in my head, but
We in danger of running afoul of the grant if we don't get these delivered and paid for, so we can get reimbursed.
well, my answer to that and speaking with them, these delays are nationwide, so I'm not so sure that they won't adapt to, if they have to, they will extend that period of time. I don't know that for sure, but he said this is a major issue right now, is being able to obtain supplies and products that are ordered. Yeah. It's going to be with us for a while. Did y'all have any other questions?
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve budget amendment 2021.2022.9 in order to accept the grant body cameras.
All right, do we have a second? All in favor? All right, thank you, gentlemen. And now we'll have commissioner reports. So I'll start at the end over there with Commissioner Martin.
Zach, on these issues that the planning board chair, Susan Hall, brought up, that she's labeled time sensitive, is that something you can handle, or do we need to put it on the agenda for the next board meeting?
In terms of which items?
Maybe she can.
She was talking about the
There's two issues here that she's
one was a text amendment.
question here.
Yeah, the stormwater. Yeah, the stormwater ordinance changes, and then also addressing multifamily townhouses, all that. I think it would flow usually through and it could come, direction from the Board of Commissioners to the Planning Board to work on those items. We initiated both of those. It could go either way, but since that discussion's already been started, to kind of be continuing that discussion on those.
Well, what I'm asking, does it need to be added to the agenda for the next meeting, even if we wanted to task the planning board to recommend the text change language? I just don't want to circle file it. I want action taken on it. If it's that important to the planning board, I'm just looking which way it needs to be handled.
Yeah, I mean, if the planning board considers text amendments at their meeting in June, I mean, if we have enough time to notice, for the Board of Commissioners, then that could be on the same month.
Okay.
But I do think we'll probably see a special use permit for some of these projects. Probably will come in before that point, but we'll see. So
Just don't want it to fall through the cracks. I wasn't even aware of a townhouse project going on in town here. So
yeah, there might be two coming forward, so we'll have to see where that goes. And I mean, unless we need to, on the stormwater engineering, if we need to contract those services, if there's disagreement with the recommendations of the engineer we work with the town, then we might need to look at prolonging that discussion further. If there's not, if there's not acceptance of the terms or ideas that we come up with, we might need to look at hiring a consultant to come up with that if what staff comes up with is insufficient. So I would just say that would be some additional costs we have to factor in.
okay, thank you. That's all my.
All right. My comment is for the planning board. For when y'all are deliberating the retention requirements for swales and whatnot, I would appreciate it. The way I see it is this: if there's a standard out there, a minimum standard, then that is what should be required. Now, without imposing your or mine or anybody else's values on somebody else, I would like to see maybe some sort of incentive for people that would like to retain more. They've got more room, they can retain more. And I don't know what that looks like, right? I can't change CAMA's rules and I can't change anybody else's rules, but we can affect ours. So if we would like to see 2 inches of retention, but the standard is 1.5, maybe there's, you prove to us that you're retaining 2 inches, maybe we get, I don't know, you get some more impervious area. You know, you get a deduction off your current impervious area or something along those lines. Just something to think about while y'all are kind of hashing this out. But I would like to see some sort of option that considers that anyway. That's all I got.
You done?
I guess I'll too go back to the planning board thing. I think it would be good to see some tasking from this board to the planning board. I think, you know, us sort of putting together a list. I don't know, you know, Susan Hall has a great list here. Maybe we just deliver that. But I think doing something, I think with point number 4, bullet number 4, you know, as we lose Zach, I think we need to be focusing on, you know, the town manager right now has multiple hats, multiple approving hats. And so it all falls to sort of one individual. I think putting some of this back into residents of the town to control and monitor development would be great. And so I think that is, I think that's a good point with number 4. So anyway, I think this would be good. I do think we need to get something on the list for next month, on the agenda for next month, that we can give tasking to the planning board. That's all I have.
All right. Well, all I got is I was at the North Carolina Beach Inlet and Waterway Association spring meeting this past week, and just as Mr. McDaniel was alluding to, there's a lot of money's being thrown out right now, and some of it is starting to come our way. A lot of this was, that's why I was not even going to go to the meeting, because I'm like, well, it's going to be all about the beach. But I'm sitting there thinking, hey, they're reaching over to us now, and a lot of this is coming over the sound, and especially with erosion control and some protections that we can actually start getting some money for. It's like, it's a no-brainer. I mean, if they're giving it out, we need to at least get our name in the hat for some of these funds. So I'm going to try to keep in touch with that. And Corps of Engineers had a lot of wealth of information there. One of my cousins was one of their engineers, Mr. Steve Baker. He gave a great presentation. So it's a family thing. And so a lot, I was really impressed with that. So as you alluded to, so, you know, if it's out there, why not us? You know, we're a small town, but I think we're just as worthy as the next guy. So now we're going to need to have a motion. We're going to go into a closed session to discuss personnel issues, and then we'll come back. But I need a motion to come out of regular meeting and go into a closed session. Second. All right, all in favor? All right, you're welcome to stay. Yes, when we come back. That'll be fine. Just don't forget.
Save me a couple hundred miles.
Don't forget. I mean, you know, if it's
a little pricey right now.
fine. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It'll be fine.
That might actually even be better.
Yeah, no, just give
Give it a little more time on stuff too. It's good.
So I need to bring the laptop in there in case there's
Yes. What time is it? He only had till like 7:30. So I don't know if we'll have time to get it all. We'll see. I might can schedule like for our next budget meeting, you know, a little closed session during the day for him.
okay.
Do something like if they want to do.
Yeah, that was
Something. We'll probably go through it. We'll do a little meet and greet.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked. Shocked. Helps to know people.
Oh yeah.
All right. Oh, this thing out.
Let me turn. I guess I need to turn this one off.
Yeah, cut this one off.